if you're wait if you're not wait if you're waiting.
I'll just put you in the waiting room and we can talk after. Yeah.
All right.
Hey.
Check, check. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. So I only want to talk about the ICJ
Okay.
because I think it's worth taking more of a look at. I don't think that you've given
Okay,
it.
so what is in the ICJ ruling that I should care about?
It's the ICJ rulings dating back to January. So like you keep making this claim that there's no like restriction of food or anything like that, but in every they've issued three separate interim orders now, and they've just been piling them on as they go. So all the orders from the first one and the second one all got reaffirmed in the third one.
Okay, so just go through them.
What do you mean go through them?
Yeah, so you said that they have a ruling where they say there's a restriction of food, there's something else, like go through them.
Yeah, I've linked them to you. You want me to like read out each order? They essentially say that Israel shouldn't restrict any aid. They shouldn't impede any access to aid. The newest one says that they should.
What does that even mean?
Well, that's the thing. That's why I call you Sea Lion, because you're asking for like one little point of evidence or one sort of a link for something.
Well, what does restriction of aid mean? Because I mean, technically, if you have a security checkpoint where it might take.
It means shutting down. It means shutting down points, like access points, which they've done. It means
for security reasons.
Yeah, it means like it means enhancing restrictions on the trucks, which they've done for silly things, or having like a new restricted lists of items that couldn't be used in military way any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so
and it means the direct result of that is what's happening to the population, where there was an incurred risk of famine. Now there is famine.
Oh yeah, risk of famine. So 32 total deaths since October 7th from starvation.
Yeah, but Richard,
that's a famine.
Just be honest.
So is 32 deaths from starvation since October 7th? Does that sound like a famine to you?
From what I've seen, it sounds like a famine to me. But it doesn't matter.
32 deaths from starvation is a famine.
Oh my God. Like what? Why are you so dishonest?
So 32 deaths from starvation equates to famine, do you?
No, deaths don't equate to famine immediately, because that would be people dead. You can still
this is since October 7th.
You can still starve and have a lack of food and there still be a famine. Is everybody in every famine all just suddenly dead, and that's how they clarified it?
There's only 32 deaths. I've heard this bullshit about, there's going to be widespread famine, mass starvation.
There is
32 total deaths since the start of the war. And again, famine, starvation. There's going to be mass starvation, mass famine. And then so far we only have 32 deaths. So that doesn't sound like a famine to me.
You know that they don't even have the resources to count the number of deaths anymore. You realize that the death number has
that's not true.
Yes,
you can talk about the accuracy of the reporting. There are issues with that, and they have had to rely on things like looking at news footage to estimate casualty figures in certain bombings. I know there's issues with death counting, but again, I don't when you go from going from a recorded 32 and then you're saying, okay, well, there's mass starvation. Are we assuming that the actual starvation figures are in the thousands? That's a huge fucking discrepancy from reported deaths and actual deaths that are occurring.
How long do you think it takes? How long do you think it takes somebody to die of starvation?
Well, it depends. If it's a child, it could be literally fucking days.
That's completely inaccurate.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You can cause death from starvation in an infant within literally days.
We come from the vegan community, and we know people that have water fasted for fucking months. Correct?
Yeah, and they're adults. You can cause death to an infant by starving them literally within a matter of days.
No, we both already know people in the vegan community that would have been dead a long time ago if they would die in a couple of days.
Well,
And
they're not infants. You can
yeah,
cause the death of an infant
but
by
but
starving
that
them
does
in
that,
literally a matter of days.
yeah, but it doesn't mean small amount of food is sufficient for a person to avoid famine, correct?
Okay, well, the
But
fact
it is to
is
avoid
there are more
starvation.
food trucks going into Gaza on a weekday average now than pre-October 7th.
At all. There's like bullshit. Anyways,
Well,
regardless of
I'm
that,
not.
well, I'm sorry, but John Kirby, Matt Miller, representatives of the U.S. seem to think differently. The rest of the world seems to think differently, and the ICJ, important. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Seems to think differently. So South Africa's
Well,
original application.
well,
No,
let's
stop.
yeah,
So,
let's
so
let's
listen.
back up for a second here because you
I want to go to the
said
ICJ.
the ICJ ordered them to not restrict any
Yeah.
aid. Like, what does that even mean? Does that mean they can't have any security checks? Because technically, a security check that would halt a food truck for, say, an hour, that's technically a restriction. Like, what does the restriction mean?
I mean, they've UNICEF seen food trucks stopped up for weeks.
Okay, so what does a restriction mean?
A restriction would mean stopping the flow of aid, so shutting down
Yeah,
ports.
what
They
does
shut
that
down.
mean?
Have they or have they not shut down the Rafah port? Is that open?
Uh, well, the port in Rafah is open. What the way the aid travels is there's an inspection in Israel, then it goes through Egypt, and Egypt does their own security inspection, and then it goes into Rafah.
No,
So, like,
Rafah gets
what's funny is the ICJ is telling Israel not to have any restrictions, and then Egypt is doing their own security checks and stopping some of the fucking trucks. So I don't know how that's Israel's
no,
problem.
that's not true. Israel took over the Rafah crossing. Just stop. So, anyways, can I
You
talk about
can
the
you
ICJ?
can look at
Can I
the
talk
you
about the
can look at
ICJ?
how aid is
Can I
channeled through Rafah.
can
It
I talk
goes
about the
through.
ICJ?
There's a security check in Israel first, then they go through Egypt into Rafah. But Egypt does their own security check, so
Are you
that's
saying at no point?
technically so that would be a
Are you
bottleneck.
saying are you saying at no point in time Israel's taken over any of the border crossings in Egypt?
How would Israel take over border crossings in Egypt? It's in Egypt.
Well, because surprise, surprise, they occupy Gaza. They're in control of Gaza.
Do you understand Egypt is a separate country to Israel, and there's a border
Do you
between Egypt and Israel and
do you
sorry,
understand that? Do
Gaza?
you understand that? You understand that doors have two sides?
Okay, do I have to like actually draw this out or show you a map? Egypt shares a
So
border with
I'm
Gaza.
sorry, but does the United States have a checkpoint in the United States for people from Canada?
Yeah, they do.
So then, okay. So would Israel, who controls Gaza, have a checkpoint on their side, and on the other side, there's Egypt?
What are you talking about?
Oh my
There's
God. For it to get through, Israel okays it. They check it on that side.
yeah, I just said
Israel has
you
control
can look
over
at
what
the
goes
aid
into Gaza.
channel going into Rafah. There's a security inspection in Israel.
So in the
Then
last
they
few
go
months,
into
in the,
Egypt,
la-
and then
in the
Egypt
last
does their own security inspection until the aid trucks can get into Gaza
in the last
in
two
the
months,
Rafah crossing.
in the last 2 months, has Israel shut down Rafah? Yes or no?
I believe they have shut down one Rafah crossing, but I think it
Okay, so
was
they shut
opened up
down
again.
crossings. So they shut down crossings. So there's a restriction of aid. Anyways, so the South Africa submitted an application. It was 84 pages in December.
Wait, let
Okay,
me
you didn't.
wait. Give me
Oh,
1 second.
this was to talk about the legitimacy of the ICJ. If you
Sorry.
want to look up whether this was to talk about the legitimacy of the ICJ, which you keep trying to hand wave away. Are you there?
So the Rafah border crossing is in Egypt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it goes into Gaza.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
Egyptian territory.
Who controls Gaza?
What? Sorry, Egypt controls the border at the Rafah crossing.
Richard, borders go both ways.
Egypt controls the border in the Rafah crossing. Egypt isn't Israel.
Borders go. There's two sides to a border.
Yes, and the Gaza is not Israel.
Israel controls Gaza. They took control of the Rafah crossing and they shut it down. You just said they shut them. You just said they shut.
Sorry, Egypt has also closed off crossings into Gaza. They've actually like doubled up on security at the crossing between Egypt and Gaza. And again, the Rafah crossing is in Egypt.
Why did Egypt do that? Was it because all the people in Gaza, most of the people in Gaza, got chased down to the southern point? So Israel was hoping that they would try and flee through the border. Could that have been why?
Explain that again.
Israel corralled the Palestinians into an enclave next to Egypt, with hopes that they would flee. What they've been trying to do since the beginning of the war is chase them out of Gaza. It's not a coincidence that the majority of the population was pushed down to the most southern edge.
Okay, so I'm sharing this on my screen right now. You can see everyone can see where Rafah is. It's along the border of Egypt. So
Jesus Christ, I'm not debating whether in fact the Rafah border is in between Gaza and Egypt.
I will copy this link in chat.
You don't have to. I'm not.
No, I'll copy this link in.
I'm not contesting that. You've already said that Israel shut down one of the borders. There, they have control.
Well, I'll just message this to you.
Are you listening to me?
Can I message this to you? Yeah, here we go.
Can you hear me, or are you muting?
I can hear you.
Okay, well,
so again, the Rafah crossing is in Egypt. So if Israel wants to get aid into Rafah, they have to pass off aid trucks into Egypt, and then Egypt does their own fucking security check, and then they can enter Rafah. So that's one of the bottlenecks for getting aid into Rafah. It's Egypt, not Israel.
Oh my gosh. Israel closes in Gaza by occupying the land borders. Israel can do that.
Okay, can you look at the map? Can you look at the map?
Jesus Christ, I don't have to. I understand on one side is Gaza, on one side is Egypt.
Right.
What I'm saying is Israel takes control from Gaza of those borders. That's why I keep saying a border has two sides.
Okay.
The states decides what gets into the states.
Okay, well, aid is going in through the Egypt-Rafah crossing, so what are you talking about?
And you've already agreed in this conversation that they've at least shut one of those down.
Yeah, they shut it down at one point for security reasons, but it's open now. Aid is getting through into Rafah.
And it wasn't before. So that's a
wasn't it like 2 weeks?
That's an example of a restriction of aid.
Okay.
And on different occasions,
wasn't this like a fucking year ago?
What are you talking about? No, this is in the last couple of months. What do you think everybody's like all eyes on Rafah? It's because of the military incursions. Why do you think the ICJ just issued interim orders for them not to do an assault on Rafah? It's because all the people have been chased there. What do you mean a year ago?
The crossing is being closed since the IDF gained control of its Gazan side on May 7th. As Egypt said, it would refuse to reopen it until it was back under Palestinian control in order to avoid being seen as complicit with Israel's military operation. So Egypt was the one. So, by the way,
don't you have a map of Gaza and Egypt?
So Egypt was the one who closed the border, not the IDF.
Read that again.
So the crossing has been closed since the IDF gained control of its Gazan side on May 7th. As Egypt said it would refuse to reopen it until it was back under Palestinian control in order to avoid being seen as complicit with Israel's military operation. Egypt was the one who closed the Rafah crossing, not Israel.
Why don't you? Because Israel took control of it.
Yeah, Egypt said they don't want to see appear as though they're complicit in the IDF's thing. So it wasn't fucking Israel who's closing the border. It was Egypt that closed their side.
So, but Israel took over control of the crossing.
You're
correct?
literally saying, so the claim you made was that Israel was the one who closed the border. That's false. Egypt was the one who closed the border. And they're saying Egypt is saying they'll reopen it if Israel withdraws.
Okay, so if one side takes over a border and says the only way that this is happening is under our command, and the other side says we're not messing with that.
You accused Israel of closing the Rafah crossing. That's false.
Okay.
Egypt closed the Rafah crossing.
How about then I take that claim back and I say Israel took over control of the border in a way in which
they didn't take control over the border. They took control over Rafah.
Israel took control of Rafah crossings on the borderline, and then the other side said, no, we're not going to deal with that. So is that better?
No. The original claim you made was that Israel was the one who shut down the border. Egypt was the one who shut down the border.
I'm taking back my claim, man. Then, okay. So an unruly force was on the other side, and one side said, we don't want to deal with them until they leave. So if you want to take that as Egypt,
yeah. So it's not the Jew. So you're blaming Jews basically, and it's not the Jews' fault.
The Jews? Why would you say that like that? That's one. It's
let me see. Are Israelis Jews? Do I have to consult like Google or Wikipedia or?
I thought you said Israel was full of Arabs and Palestinians.
Yeah, there's a 20% Arab minority in Israel.
I thought you said it's not an ethno state. It's a democracy, right? So
okay.
So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Israel's kind of synonymous with Jews, and mostly Jews are in the government. Mostly Jews are in the IDF. So again, your whole narrative is it's the Jews. It's the Jews who shut down the border. They're starving everybody. But guess what? It wasn't the Jews this time. It was fucking Egypt who shut down the border. And now you have to fucking turn. And now you're trying to avoid the fact that you were blaming Israel when it was the Egyptians who did this.
Oh, is it Israel now? It's not the Jews anymore, Mr. Anti-Semite?
Yeah, okay, we can use whatever fucking words you're comfortable with.
Are Jewish people some sort of monolith?
Okay, again, just to summarize here, you blamed Israel / the Jews, whatever you want to call them, for shutting down the Rafah crossing when it was Egypt who shut down the Rafah crossing. Okay, so the Israelis / the Jews, it wasn't their fault. It was Egypt. So I think we can move on now that you've admitted you were wrong.
So we agree that the IDF took control over the Rafah crossings.
They didn't take control over the Rafah crossing. Egypt was the one who fucking took control of the Rafah crossing. They were the ones who shut down the border at their side.
On their side, yeah. And Israel took control over the Rafah crossing in Gaza.
How is Israel taking control of the Rafah crossing when they didn't shut down their side?
On their end, they took control of the Rafah crossing. Yes or no?
I'm sorry. The reason Egypt fucking shut down the Rafah crossing is because Israel invaded Rafah, and they said until Palestinians gain control of Rafah, they're not going to open the border. So Egypt was the one who was stopping aid from going through the Rafah crossing.
Okay, well, anyway, so Israel took over the Rafah crossing.
Yes or no? Okay, sorry. Yes or no? Was it Egypt that shut down the border at the Rafah crossing?
From what you said, Egypt shut down their boarding after Israel took control over their crossing on their side in Gaza.
Did
Yeah.
Egypt shut down aid? Is Egypt responsible for preventing aid from going through the Rafah crossing? Yes or no?
No, Israel would be.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So you're saying so Israel shut down aid from going through the Rafah crossing, even though Egypt was the one who shut down the border on their end to prevent aid from coming in.
Israel took over those crossings. You've agreed to that, correct?
No. Egypt is the one who shut down the border.
Oh my God. Israel took control over that side of the crossing. You've already stated that. And then you stated, as a response to that, Egypt decided not to have their side of that crossing open until Israel left the crossings they took over.
Okay.
Already...
Again, did
so
Israel
anyways,
sorry. No. Okay. This is very easy. This is very easy. Okay. There's the left side of the border, which is Egypt. There's the right side of the border, which the IDF has presence in. They're in control of Rafah right now.
They could control over those crossings. Yes. So on one side.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Let's say Israel has control of the Rafah crossing on the Gazan side. Okay. Let's just grant that Israel has control over the Rafah crossing on the Gazan side.
Yeah.
Who's the one who shut down the border?
According to you, it would have been Israel's response to. It would have been Egypt's response to Israel taking over Rafah. I'm not even sure that that's true, but I'm just giving you what you want there because it doesn't make a difference to what my point is.
So then it's not Israel who shut down the border. So Israel isn't the one who's responsible for preventing aid from coming in. It was Egypt.
So when Israel put gates around Gaza, was it because Hamas was too violent and they were worried about what was going to happen if they didn't do that?
There was no border wall around Gaza until Hamas started shooting rockets. So
yeah,
yes.
so it was Hamas's fault, and then Israel closed that off, right?
Yes, because it's a national security threat, clearly.
Okay, so then when Egypt shuts off their part, when Israel's sitting at their borders, that's not the same?
No, it's not, because aid is coming into Gaza. Israel isn't launching rockets into Egypt. How are these two things similar? You're saying aid coming in through Egypt into Gaza is the same thing as Hamas shooting rockets into Israel?
You're saying a reaction is not the catalyst?
I'm sorry. You're saying Israel wanting aid to come in from Egypt into the Rafah crossing is the same thing as Hamas shooting rockets from Gaza into Israel.
You need to stop over talking and trying to impose your will. If you have a point, then it can be made, but you got to let both people speak. You're saying the catalyst for the crossing is the reaction, is the response to an action. I'm saying the action is the catalyst. I'm saying it starts at the action. So if they closed it because of Israel being on that one side in the way in which they were doing things, if they were shutting it down completely, they may have, or they might have wanted it there so that they could fucking shuttle Palestinians out into Egypt. I don't know, but that might have been the case as why. But either way, if Israel wasn't having control over that before, like you said, where they let the trucks go to Egypt and then the trucks would roll on into Rafah, if Israel changed that and then they took control over that crossing, it was for a reason. It was either to stifle the flow of aid or it was to kick Palestinians out into Egypt. But either way, I think
why in the fuck would Israel want to kick Palestinians into Egypt?
They've been literally talking about that since day one. You have fucking members of the cabinet saying specifically.
Like, by the way, Egypt has literally publicly stated that they wanted to close the Rafah crossing because they didn't want to seem complicit in a quote unquote genocide.
Yeah, yeah. Part of a genocide is the ethnic cleansing of people, which would be chasing them out of their land where they are. There are members and ministers that have been part of the ICJ case that have said specifically, we will make Gaza uninhabitable. We'll cut off all food, all water, all aid. That's in there.
No, I'm no. They
They
said they're going to starve Hamas.
No, they didn't. That's not the quote at all.
What's the exact quote and who made it?
Hold on, I got it. And like I said before, trying to talk about the ICJ, these are all quotes that were in the application, the original application, the 84-page application. Which is why, as part of the interim orders from the ICJ, they said specifically that Israel would need to punish anybody that's made any sort of genocidal indications. I imagine why they would make an order like that if those things hadn't occurred or those things weren't assumed to be for that.
Okay, so where's the quote you're talking about?
I'm trying to look it up as I speak. You can't actually say that that's never occurred before. You've heard this before. These quotes. Hold on. Israel's announced a total blockade. We are putting a complete siege on Gaza. No electricity, no food, no water, no gas. It's all closed. That's Yoav Gallant said that in a video statement.
Okay. And that was right after the October 7th attack, right?
Yeah, and what happened after the October 7th attack?
Yeah, there was a 2-week period where no aid came through.
Okay, so if that was in October, Richard, then why in
there was a 2-week period where no aid came through, and it was clear they did that so that they could negotiate a hostage return.
Then why in December 28th, did South Africa submit an application that stated
I don't fucking care why South Africa did anything. The reason they completely shut off all aid going into Gaza and closed off all fucking borders was clearly to help facilitate a hostage return. After the 2 weeks, they opened up some of the border crossings and they allowed aid to go through. And by the way, Israel only provides, I think, like 10% of fucking electricity or something. It was either 10% of electricity or water.
Yeah, and the rest is for generators. You know what needs generators need? Fuel.
Yeah, okay.
So
and guess what? They were able to negotiate a hostage return by providing fuel to Hamas.
Yeah, imagine
so you're saying their tactic worked. They were actually able to return something like 40 hostages, or was it like 20 at the time, by exchanging fuel. So the tactic worked.
So the tactic of starving the population.
Okay, wait. No, the fuel. We're talking about fuel. You just admitted the tactic of not allowing fuel in worked, and they were able to, I think, rescue at the time 20 hostages.
Fuel was needed for water filtration systems, Richard.
Okay, great. So again, the tactic worked. Whether you agree with the tactic or not, but the tactic worked.
So let's give them all.
So how many people died because fuel and food was restricted for 2 weeks?
Well, if you can't clean your water, if you don't have
so how many people died as a result of aid being restricted for 2 weeks?
What are you talking about? It was a 2-week pause, dumbass. They didn't.
Yeah, so how many people died?
They didn't. No, you're talking. 2 weeks was the pause in that initial temporary ceasefire. There was no indication that food wasn't being restricted all the way up until the South Africa application. And then a month after that.
What do you mean? The border was shut off for 2 weeks. That's the only time.
Oh my God. No, it's
that
not.
was the only time food trucks and aid weren't allowed to enter.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And why I'm trying to get to this, and you just let me talk. South Africa submitted an application at the end of December. So you're talking about 2 weeks after fucking in that one, maybe let's say November, if we're going to be charitable. If they submit application in December, and if in January the court looks at all that evidence and they decide that Israel is restricting aid, and then again in March, same thing, they find
Yeah,
that
they're
still
accusing Israel of restricting aid on the basis of them doing security checks and turning some food trucks away.
and then
That doesn't mean
again,
no aid was going through. There was only a 2 week.
and then
You can look up the aid trucks that have been going into Gaza for the past year or so. It was only a 2 week period where no aid went through after October 7th. After that,
so
aid was going through. The argument that
No
South
aid-
Africa made was that not enough was going through, and Israel was
a trickle.
deliberately holding back food trucks to cause like mass starvation. And again, there's only been 32 recorded starvation deaths since the beginning of the war, so that claim sounds kind of fucking stupid. And
It's not fucking stupid when there are organizations in place that track things like food insecurity. The main one of those, since who knows how long, has carefully monitored.
are you talking about Euromed?
No, I'm not talking about Euromed. I'm talking about the institution for, what's it called? The Integrated Food Security Phase, the IPC.
Okay.
The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification. Evidence and standards for better food security and nutrition defense. Those are the ones that were tracking like the levels of insecurity, food insecurity, extreme food insecurity, and that dog worst, obviously famine or whatnot. And
okay, so only 32 starvation deaths so far. So I think if people were not getting enough food for a year, probably see a few more deaths.
If that's the argument you want to hang on.
And again, I think 28 of the 32 reported deaths were all infants.
Okay, yeah. So your point is people are getting adequate
Well, people
nutrition?
seem to be getting enough fucking food for the most part.
Do they? So, and if anybody wants to like splice this or just go and look on your Instagrams or anywhere, you can see the children that are just skin and bones, barely even at that, all across Gaza. You see the kind of shit every day.
Oh, okay, great. Show me like I don't know what. Show me like a source for starvation figures.
I have many times in the past. It's the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, the IPC.
Oh, okay, but like show me the figures.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. Like providing evidence for your claims.
Yeah, I do provide evidence. That's why I call you C line, because they do drag. Because you want a link for something that's going to do something in one conversation. When I've said multiple times that there have been applications with links to evidence of everything that they claim that have been submitted to a world court that has 16 appointed judges.
Okay, great. So you're making a specific claim about starvation. I'd like to see some of the data on the starvation claims.
Okay, and I'm telling you, I provided it to you before. You just haven't taken the time to look at them. But if you would like, I will provide it again. Since you don't want to take any time to
again, all you've said is look at the photos on Instagram of starving kids. Like, okay, well,
no, that's not all. That's clearly not all I said in the slightest. So I said that this information is provided to the ICJ in which they meant to make their determinations. But you don't want to take the time to look at that because you want to have it as like some quick little YouTube clip because.
You're quoting from a particular organization that probably has an article or some sort of graph.
How do I?
So you can just put it in the hashtag live channel. It's right at the very top.
Click on live. Hold on. Click live. Done reading, check out other channels. Where do I?
It's under announcements. Can you post to that? I'm not sure.
The live, there's no option to post any word.
Just message it to me directly.
Okay. So I click on you?
Yeah. And just right click and message.
It's not letting me. I click on a message. It gives me an option. It says done reading. Check out other platforms at the bottom.
Like,
But there's
I've
no way.
already messaged you, so I'll add you as a friend. Maybe that's preventing me from receiving message. I don't know.
Accept. No, okay, message you directly. What the fuck? It's not. Oh, there. Message. All right. That's the IPC, the measure of food, the levels of food insecurity around the world.
Famine is imminent as 1.1 million people, half of Gaza, experience catastrophic food insecurity, blah, blah, blah. According to the most likely scenario, both North Gaza governance are classified in IPC Phase 5 famine with reasonable evidence, with 70%, around 210,000% of the population. Phase 5 catastrophe. When was this article written?
That was March.
15th February to March 2024. Projection for March 16th to July.
Yeah. They probably have a more recent one.
Let me see. So, famine threshold for household acute food insecurity is already being far exceeded. So, I'm just curious what this is based on. Let me pull up the graphic.
So you can agree at the very least that
these are two specific problems, by the way, because there could be food insecurity, but adequate food coming in. It's just that, especially in North Gaza, the food trucks might have issues actually going to locations that need food. And
like the settlers attacking them that have been given the locations.
What do you mean
by the
settlers attacking them?
You've seen videos of settlers attacking trucks. You've literally watched them and said that was...
You mean the IDF?
No, settlers. Protests. At the borders. Holding up trucks, just destroying trucks.
Well, you can look at the... You can, like, again, you can... Great, yeah, I've seen the Instagram videos. You can look at the daily food trucks.
Good.
That's great. Good. You can look at the daily, and you can look at the daily crossing of food trucks. I think the daily average is something like 120.
Okay.
I don't care about a fucking Instagram video that you've seen where Israeli citizens are vandalizing food trucks because they think it's going to Hamas. Again, that doesn't seem to be massively affecting food going into Gaza. Since then, conditions necessary to prevent famine have not been met. Famine is imminent. So let me see. I'm Can you, like, where in this article are they talking about, like, the specific problem? Because, let's see, from a pre-escalation average of 500 trucks a day, of which 150 carrying food. Okay, so yeah, okay. This is fucking bullshit. So,
okay.
This is the same fucking problem as before. So you're linking me a resource that's literally lying. There wasn't an average. No. There wasn't an average of 500 daily trucks going in per day. The way they got to that 500 trucks figure was they were going by a daily average versus a working day average. So they're multiplying the amount of trucks coming in per day by 7 over 5. And then when they're getting to the 150 trucks carrying food, that includes both human food and livestock feed. And again, they're working by they're going by daily average, not working day average. So again, they're multiplying it by 7 over 5, and then just rounding up to the nearest, like, 50 or 100. So this is like the source you're giving me is just spreading more misinformation. So now they're saying in the period between October 7th, 2023 to 24th February 2024, only 90 trucks per day, of which 60 carrying food. So again, this is just more fucking misinformation. And then when they're coming to this figure, they're going by an actual working day average, not the fucking daily average. So like, again, this is fucking horseshit. And I'm pretty sure the daily average is actually closer to 120.
This is so boring, man. Like, why every credible institution that's been
credible, but they're spreading misinformation about the food trucks coming in.
It's
okay,
misinformation because that's the way you like to interpret it. But what's a more credible institution when it comes to food insecurity around the world than this one? Do you even know what this is? You don't.
You can actually look at the fucking figures and find out that they're lying.
It's the same as the ICJ. You're like, what's this? Oh, I don't know what this is. Where are they
You can
getting
look at
this
the
from?
fucking. You can look at the fucking food truck data, and you can see they're fucking lying.
Oh yeah, they're lying. Okay, so there's nobody credible. There's no credible institutions anywhere that the UN uses, that NGOs use, civil society, other relevant actors, governments, like. They use this, but for Richard, he knows better.
Okay, well, listen. Listen.
Why don't you take the ICJ?
Wait. Listen. So if you calculate the total food in Gaza, both domestically created, so there's a bit of farming and food production within Gaza, and if you calculate the food trucks coming in pre-war. They were averaging 3,000 calories per day per person, which is extremely high. They had very good food security before. And then when you actually calculate the actual amount of food, when you calculate the actual amount of human food going into being imported into Gaza, there's actually more human food going into Gaza now than pre-war. So they're basing these fucking numbers of food insecurity off of just the fact that, oh, well, there's less food trucks coming in before, and they're basing this off of just bullshit numbers where they're fucking going off of a fucking daily average rather than a working day average, and they're fucking deliberately rounding up to the nearest 50 or 100 number. Like, this is just fucking bullshit. The fucking thing you linked me is crap.
I'm not going to pretend to know better or to be able to interpret the data better than the people that work there, but you will do that.
Okay, great. So if you just want to believe whatever stupid shit you read online, that's up to you, but okay.
You could sit online, that's the most credible agency when it comes to food security.
Right. So nobody can ever lie, nobody can ever fudge numbers or make up misinformation. Whatever you read online from any organization, then that's up to you. Apparently, you can't be critical of anything as long as it's, oh, well, they're the most credible agency. Okay, cool. You can do that.
You can be critical only in the time that you've had that link open.
You can't you can't question anything as long as it's a so-called credible institution. Okay.
You can question, but you've deemed them as liars or spreading misinformation with.
I don't know what their motivation is, but yeah, when they're sharing numbers like that, that's clearly misinformation. I would have to assume they're fucking deliberately lying because that is horseshit.
Perfect. And let's finish this off and round it back to the ICJ. Is the ICJ credible?
Well, wait. You were fucking claiming that in this ICJ filing, Israel was shutting down the Rafah border, and that's one of the bases for claiming they're starving Palestinians. We've already established they didn't shut down the Rafah crossing. It was Egypt that shut it down.
I didn't say anything about that with the ICJ. You just made a claim that they're not shutting down aid anywhere, and then we got into the conversation.
Well, and look, if the ICJ ruling is based off this bullshit fucking report where they're deliberately lying about food truck numbers, I don't really trust the ICJ ruling.
Well, maybe you could just read the application for once in your life. There's 3 separate applications.
Okay, great. Well, if we're talking about the starvation in particular and the prevention of aid, Well, again, if it's based off of this IPC report you just mentioned, it's not reliable, and if they're basing the ruling off of that, then the ruling is unreliable.
Exactly. So in 5 minutes, you managed to discredit the leading organization for food insecurity.
Yeah, it's pretty easy when they fucking lie about food truck numbers.
Okay, so your confidence in that is.
And again, there's two separate issues here. One is the amount of food trucks coming in, and two, whether or not those food trucks are able to get to locations required to actually provide the aid. That could very well be the case, that there is a problem with aid actually getting to necessary locations. I'm not disputing that. But the dispute here is whether or not there is enough food trucks getting in, and it's quite clear that there are.
Okay. So the ICJs, their findings are just made up bullshit.
Well, I explained to you why I don't trust the finding on the starvation thing. So what other parts of the ruling are there?
So that's not just one part of the ruling. Yes, they did use evidence from the IPC, but they used a bunch. It's an 84-page report is the first
right,
report.
So we've already gone over the starvation thing. Is there anything else? Like, is there some stupid fucking genocide claim being made about how they're conducting warfare?
The whole case is about genocide. So
okay, well, we've already fucking talked about the starvation thing, which is bullshit. Yeah, so what other aspect? Is there some, like, indiscriminate bombing bullcrap that you want to talk about?
It's bullshit because you claimed it was bullshit?
No, I explained why it's bullshit. It's not just that I claim it's bullshit.
Because it's not a credible organization. Okay. So anyways, when the ICJ makes those orders, do you think they take reasonable measures to come to any sort of determination? And do you think that it's a fair process to have 16 different judges? Each judge is appointed by their own country from around the world. Do you think it's credible, or do you think they're all just biased?
I don't know.
Every one of the orders that has been issued, for every vote on every one of those orders, there's been at least 14 of those 16 judges that have voted in favor for those orders.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, so if there's that majority that votes for that, and the applications, which you don't look at.
I don't really care about the ICJ ruling. What I care about is the information that's being presented in support of the ICJ ruling.
Then why don't you take the time to look at the applications?
Well, again, you're providing me with the evidence that I just criticized. So on the starvation issue, again, you claim that Israel shut down the Rafah crossing, which is not true. It was Egypt that shut down the Rafah crossing. Two, you fucking claim that there's not enough food trucks coming in when clearly there fucking are. The issue seems to be whether or not aid is getting to appropriate places, which I'm not going to dispute. It could very well be the case, but also considering there's only been 32 starvation deaths, with like 95% of them being fucking infants, like I don't see a widespread issue of like people not getting enough food.
Well, the IPC does. So isn't it just like a smoking gun? You just go through the application and the evidence that they provide, and you just debunk it all, and you'd be like, oh, the ICJ is bullshit, and they're biased, since this evidence that's been provided.
I never said the ICJ is biased. I criticized the evidence that you claim the ICJ looked at, and I don't find it to be very credible.
It's a portion of it. I've seen it in the 84-page report. But it's not all of it. But I'm saying, like, why don't you just do a stream debunking it, so that was application altogether, and then you could throw out the whole genocide application altogether, and I'd be there with you if you could debunk all of that.
Okay. The problem here is you're saying the problem here is you're saying the ICJ is like prove something, and I don't care what the ICJ says. Like, show me the evidence.
That's in the applications.
Okay, I don't really want to read the full fucking application. If there's any specific fucking evidence if there's any specific evidence that Israel's committing a genocide, we've gone through the food insecurity issue, and again, I don't see any evidence that Israel is deliberately causing some kind of famine or mass food shortage. They're they've been letting food come into Gaza since 2 weeks after the October 7th attack. They have not been responsible for shutting down the Rafah crossing. Egypt was. There's also recently been an airdrop all throughout North Gaza to make sure food is getting to appropriate places, because there does seem to be a logistical issue with getting trucks to specific locations. I don't see any evidence that I don't see any evidence that Israel is deliberately causing a mass famine. And again, there's only been 32 starvation deaths, with most of those being infants, who are the most who are going to be the most vulnerable to food shortages.
Why are there issues in North?
Sorry?
Why are there issues in northern Gaza?
Well, again, it's a logistical issue. Northern Gaza was pounded with a lot of bombings. There's still a lot of Hamas militants in northern Gaza. There's still fighting going on there. Again, one of the criticisms that is being made against Israel is they're not having armored units, protect some of these food trucks. And again, when they do protect food trucks, there's a big fucking scandal about Israel fucking shot machine guns at civilians when they fucking didn't. And literally all the video evidence that's posted of this shows they didn't engage with civilians, and civilians just killed themselves by trampling each other. So
Channel 4 and the BBC disagree with you on that, but they have fire.
Okay, so can you show me the bodies at the Flower Massacre that have basketball-sized exit wounds in them from getting shot with machine gun fire?
I mean, there's plenty of reports from doctors that treated people.
Yeah, cool. So there were people at the scene who had cell phones. There were reporters. Show me where all these bodies are that were shot with machine gun fires from a fucking tank.
Do you think they hung around? I've seen the.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. There was actually a fucking guy who was on the scene who admitted he was right next to a tank. He filmed the tank opening fucking fire at the sky to warn people not to get close to any of the armored vehicles, and that was it. So again, there were people at the scene there who had cell phones, but for some reason they only decided to film the fucking Israeli tanks shooting up into the fucking sky. They didn't bother to film the tanks opening fire on civilians for some reason. I don't know, maybe they're fucking IDF agents and they're just trying to fuck with people or something.
Yeah, at 4 o'clock in the morning, in the midst of dark, when gunfire is going off everywhere, people are running for their lives. I'm sure people will just be like, I should just stop and, take a nice pic.
Yeah, there was a guy who fucking did that.
Well, there's one guy that did that. Okay. Anyways, but those firing killings...
Okay, he wasn't the only person with a cell phone, and the tanks weren't there indefinitely. Again, where's the video evidence of the Flower Massacre, where there's all these people riddled with fucking bullet wounds from a fucking tank?
Okay, anyways. So, you can...
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Okay, wait. If you're gonna claim at the Flower Massacre... armored units fired directly on civilians. Provide the evidence. Where are all the bodies riddled with fucking bullet wounds?
Did people die from that? Yes or no?
Yeah, they fucking trampled each other.
Okay, so where's the evidence of people trampled on the ground? 100 people trampled on the ground. Did you count the bodies in that footage? Why was that?
I'm sorry. So again. You're claiming the IDF. You are claiming the IDF opened fire directly on civilians who were, I believe, 150 to 200 feet away from the tanks and armored vehicles. Where are all the people riddled with fucking bullet wounds? How many people died in the Flower Massacre again?
Over 100. 117.
Yeah, so. We can assume some of those people were possibly trampled to death, but again, if a tank is opening up, if we're assuming that tank units opened up with machine gun fire, they're either firing 50 caliber or 30 caliber projectiles. Like, some of them would be cut in half. You would see basketball-sized exit wounds. Where are the 50 to 100 fucking bodies with people riddled with fucking bullets?
The doctors said that they treated many people with bullet wounds. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, well, there's an active war zone. I'm sure doctors all over the place are treating people with fucking bullet wounds. Where's the evidence that it was from Israeli tank fire at the Flower Massacre?
You're talking about tanks. I'm talking about they opened fired on them regardless. When I said tank, the tank shelled a what do you call it? I think it was an UNRWA truck.
A tank shelled an UNRWA truck.
Yeah.
Okay, let me find the story for that. And by the way, that has nothing to do with the Flower Massacre. So again, you claimed Israel directly fired on civilians. You claimed Israel directly fired on civilians.
I did, and then you started bringing.
Yeah. So where's the fucking the reason Israel fired warning shots is because people were getting too close to the tanks. They can't come too close to the tanks because it's a huge security risk. So they were only firing up into the air to, as warning shots. You're claiming Israeli tanks opened fire directly on civilians who weren't even close to the armored vehicles. So where's the evidence of that?
You're claiming that, and maybe based off of
you're the one who just claimed. Okay, did you or did you not just say?
I got shot.
Did you or did you not just say? Israeli armored vehicles opened fire opened fire directly on civilians at the Flower Massacre.
I said they shot civilians. I said doctors had treated people with bullet holes.
Did
guns.
Did Israeli armored vehicles fire directly upon civilians at the Flower Massacre? Yes or no?
I don't know if it was a tanks, but I know people were shot.
I just asked you armored vehicles. That could be a tank. That could be an armored personnel carrier. So did Israeli armored vehicles fire directly on civilians in the Flower Massacre? Yes or no?
I don't know. I know people were shot.
Okay, so now it's I don't know. They did it. They didn't do it. I don't know. Okay, you're retarded. All right.
No, you're not. No, what you're trying to like, dude. Are you listening to yourself? I said they got shot. Bullets come from guns, correct? Yes or no? So I didn't say it came from a tank. You're fucking talking about the tanks because when you talked about tanks, there
weren't fucking ground forces there. It was an armored vehicle unit.
There were ground forces there.
No, they were all in the fucking tanks. You can even see that in the fucking video footage that was released.
The video footage release was cut off.
Oh my god. You are so massively fucking retarded. Yes or no? I cannot fucking believe it.
Was it cropped? Yes or no? Was it cropped? Yes or no?
What do you mean cropped? It was cell phone footage. So some Palestinian was right next to the fucking tank unit or armored unit that were firing off warning shots. You can see the video. CNN did a fucking report on it.
Yes, I know. I'm not talking. The fucking drone footage was cut off, is what I'm saying. Get off your weird tank fucking love all of a sudden. You're talking about tanks out the ass for no reason. I'm saying the IDF fucking, what do you call it? The drone footage was cut off that they released. It didn't show the position of the tanks and it didn't show the position of other bodies that were hit. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm looking at the CNN article.
But I don't even.
That's not even true.
This. Why are we talking about this?
What do you mean? You can literally see in the CNN footage, Israel released the drone footage of the Flower Massacre. You can see tons of fucking Palestinians just swarming around these fucking aid trucks.
Wait, did the IDF not say they aimed at legs when they shot people?
No, they didn't. The account from the IDF was that they fired off warning shots because some Palestinians were getting too close to the tanks, the armored vehicles.
Pretty sure they said they aimed at legs. This is... Hold on. You're asking me to remember some shit from months ago.
So CNN did the report on this. Israel military has said its investigation into the deadly humanitarian incident in Gaza last month found Israeli troops did not fire at the aid convoy, but at a number of suspects who approached and passed a threat to nearby forces, a conclusion swiftly rejected by Palestinian authorities. More than 100 people were killed in the incident in North Gaza, which has become known as the Flower Massacre, as Israeli troops opened fire near civilians gathering around aid trucks, triggering a panic. Local journalist in Gaza, Kadza al-Zanoun, some stupid name, who was at the scene and witnessed the incident, said at the time, chaos and confusion only began once Israeli troops opened fire, and that many of the victims were run over by trucks in the ensuing panic. The Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza said at least 118 people were killed and more than 700 injured. So it was actually the truck drivers that ran over a bunch of people that seemed to have caused most of the deaths and injuries.
Yeah, that was the claim. So
the
they
command,
did fire at
so the
people,
command
correct?
review found that IDF troops did not fire at the humanitarian convoy, but did fire at a number of suspects who approached nearby forces and posed a threat to them. So they were only firing. They were only firing at people who, for no fucking reason, came near IDF forces. They're just fucking retarded. So they fucked around and found out. Most of the fucking deaths occurred from these truck drivers freaking out about being swarmed and fucking off and driving over some people, and some people were trampled. And the IDF only opened fire at some of the people who just came way too fucking close to IDF troops.
So
and again, if you look at the fucking video footage,
so they shot at people, correct? We agree on that?
Yeah, so they only opened fire at people who came too close to IDF troops.
Okay, so then doctors who talked about treating people with bullet wounds, those might have been some of those people.
Yesterday, defense.
Sorry?
Doctors that treated people with bullet wounds, those might have been some of those people.
Oh yeah, they definitely found dead bodies who were riddled with bullet wounds and treated them, hoping that maybe if they plug up the bullet holes, they'll come back to life.
What are you talking about? I said doctors claim they treated lots of people with bullet wounds. When did I say they were dead?
Yeah, so when in the fuck? Like how do you determine this was even at the Flower Massacre?
You just said. What are you talking about? The IDF admitted to open firing on people.
Sorry?
You just literally said the IDF admitted to firing on people.
Yeah, at people coming too close to IDF forces.
Yeah, at 4 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the dark. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So it's not just pitch fucking blackness where nobody can fucking see. You can clearly make out fucking IDF forces. You know, the people wearing body armor with the IDF patches and the fucking AR-15 rifles. I think people can fucking pick those people out, especially when they're standing next to fucking tanks and armored vehicles.
Okay, so your initial claim that it was just tanks firing shit into the sky to scare people, and nobody was shot, you take that back at least?
Okay, your fucking original claim was that the majority of the casualties were from the IDF firing on fucking civilians around aid trucks, which is fucking bullshit. It looks like the aid trucks themselves were responsible for most of the civilian casualties.
You don't know that.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm just assuming that a fucking 10-ton truck would kill people. I'm just assuming, but, you know, what do I know?
What do I know?
I just, you know, I stop at red lights, so I wouldn't really know much about this personally.
Oh, if you saw a truck going towards a bunch of people and you're in a crowd, you know, you would just stand there, I assume.
Yeah, so where's your evidence that most of the people killed in the Flower Massacre were killed by IDF forces?
Where's your evidence that's inverse?
You're the one making the fucking claim. Like, look, I don't know why the IDF would fire on a crowd of fucking civilians around aid trucks. That doesn't make fucking sense to me. They're not a fucking threat. The IDF claimed they only opened fire on people coming too close to their forces, whom I'm assuming they fucking warned not to get too close to begin with.
Yeah, but why do you think
Why would I assume IDF forces are just going to open fire on a massive crowd of civilians? I should just assume this?
From my position, because it's the IDF and civilians were shot, yes or no, you already agreed to that. Or they've shot at least.
So whenever anybody says, hey, IDF soldiers just shot into this massive crowd of civilians that were 100 feet away from them for no reason, I should just believe this?
The IDF said they shot at people.
Yeah, they said they shot at people who were coming too close.
What's too close?
I'd imagine it's they probably have a standard for what too close is. I'd imagine it's 50 feet. Usually, so with, I know with the American forces, it's usually within 50 feet.
I thought we weren't comparing America to the IDF, or the America's moral measures to the IDF.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Again,
I know in the US it's usually something like 50 feet. Kind of depends, but I'd imagine it's something like within 50 feet.
That was part of our last conversation where we talked about the IDF not holding themselves accountable.
That's great. So you have no evidence that the IDF opened fire on a massive crowd of civilians. You have no evidence that they're responsible for the majority of deaths at the Flower Massacre. So that's fantastic. Do you have anything else to talk about?
I've literally just been trying to talk about whether or not you think the ICJ is legitimate or not.
I don't know if the ICJ is legitimate. I don't know much about their court system. We're talking about the evidence that was presented to the ICJ, and so far we talked about the starvation bullshit. And again, so far, I'm not seeing adequate evidence that Israel is intentionally trying to fucking starve a mass amount of people. It doesn't make sense that they've been allowing aid to come through since 2 weeks after October 7th. It doesn't make sense that there appears to be a working day average of about 120 trucks coming through. It doesn't make sense that they've also been trying to have airdrop supplies. It doesn't make sense that they've been trying to open up the border between Gaza and Egypt. None of that makes fucking sense when you're claiming they're trying to starve a massive amount of civilians, especially also considering only about 32 people have fucking died so far from starvation. So, yeah, that's all fucking bullshit.
Well, just because you say it's bullshit and it doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean it doesn't make sense to other people. So it makes sense.
Right, okay, so Israel's trying to intentionally starve people when they've been letting aid through. There's been more food trucks coming into Gaza than pre-war. They've been trying to open up the border crossing with Egypt and Rafah. But yeah, they're trying to starve people. I get it. Okay, Israel evil, no matter what they do.
Doesn't it seem strange that over the last 8 months, you've taken the position of Israel in essentially every stance except the ones where it's just been completely irrefutable. And you talk about international law and whether or not it's genocide and all those types of things. But you've said in this conversation, you don't know much about the highest authority body in international law that operates only off of international law, that has 16 judges.
This is an argument from authority. I don't really care about the ICJ ruling. I care about the evidence that's presented.
If you're talking about international law, and
I don't care about the ICJ ruling. I care about the evidence that's being presented. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Well,
you can talk about how the ICJ is the highest court in the world. They have the biggest penises. They shit gold. I don't care. I care about the evidence that's being presented. And so far, the evidence you've shown me doesn't lead to me believing, well, Israel's trying to starve people to death.
Then why have you never taken any time to look at the evidence that's been presented to the ICJ for them to make their orders?
Well, I just did. You just linked it to me, and I just explained to you why I don't think it's credible.
And you said it wasn't credible. Even though, again, in comparison, it is the most credible organization when it comes to food insecurity.
That's great. I just explained to you why I don't think it's credible. They have clearly relied on fucking numbers that don't exist.
Okay, I'm not going to rage quit, but I don't think we have anything else to talk about.
Okay,
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Take care.